And we are live with Michael Allosso. How are you, brother?
I'm fantastic. How you doing, brother?
It depends on where great is, because I am above great for this webinar. I am super excited to have a dear friend, legendary speaker, Hollywood actor, Michael Allosso on the line. Folks, if you have some questions and you're on with us live, feel free to put them in the chat box. Here's the album cover for the session. We are never starting over. We are always starting different. I thought I'd put together a series of webcasts while we're in this time of disruption with friends who I love, who I believe can make a difference for people during this time. And I had my artist, Lucia, put together a logo for us. It's a start button and it's a sunrise combined. Every day is a chance for us to start different. I say every chance to give a repeat performance, whether it's at work, whether it's in our homes. We're always connecting our values with our behaviors and driving experiences for people. Michael, can you see this slide?
Wicked awesome.
Four-time Vistage, I would say award-winning. There's award-winning speakers, Michael. Then there's four-time Vistage Speaker of the Year, Vistage Lifetime Achievement Award, Hollywood actor, in the last Pink Panther movie, director, The Strangler's Wife. More importantly, someone who makes a difference every single day with the people he speaks to, with the people he coaches. You see up in the top left, Michael is directing some clients there in a corporate movie in the center of the screen in front of an audience. And this is a little bit of a different kind of a presentation for us, Michael, because it's a webcast. So I thought I would start with something that might be appropriate for a webcast screen on Good Friday. And I'm going to let you, what are your thoughts on how we should caption this one today?
What's ironic is not only is today Good Friday, it is the anniversary of the Titanic's voyage in 1912. It was on this date in 1912, the Titanic set sail. It was also on this date in 1952 that Singing in the Rain was released. So I think I put all that together. And so Jesus's Titanic was Judas, and it looks like the apostles are singing in the rain, and I could definitely choreograph them in a dance sequence now. And don't pass over the opportunity to welcome our Jewish brethren as well, Dino.
Very good, Michael. So bottom line up front, we have an opportunity here today, guys. I got to ask you guys a question before we begin started. What if there was a button in your brain that you could push to be you on your best day? Folks, that's the title of Michael's upcoming book. That's also the title of his famous talk that he's given. Michael, how many times do you think you've given this talk, over the course of the last, by the way, when did you first give the You on Your Best Day talk? How long ago?
January 2004. And that was for Vistage groups in Boston. And so I've done 1,805 Vistage groups, and I've probably done that many non-Vistage groups. So probably we're pushing 4,000 now.
Amazing. Well, if there was a button that you could push, folks, to be you on your best day, here's a note that my dad sent me on this. You would want to hit that button. Okay, so we're going to jump in. I am holding in my hands something that I have been eagerly waiting for. I'm holding in my hands the manuscript for Michael's upcoming book, You on Your Best Day. And we're going to go through some specific takeaways. I got some good news and I got some bad news for us before we get started. The good news is every single one on this call, every person was born with a brain. The bad news is none of us were born with a user manual. So a little background on how we met. Michael, I looked it up, we met 13 years ago. Can you believe that?
Awesome.
I was a Vistage member 13 years ago in a group in the Philadelphia area, and Michael was a speaker. And just a little background for folks who don't know Vistage and the background that Michael and I have. Largest CEO membership organization in the world, 25,000 members, also the largest speakers bureau in the world. So several thousand speakers. I want to say that Michael is probably the most requested speaker in the history of Vistage. A few years ago, they gave me the Speaker of the Year award. I think, Michael, it was because that year they probably gave you the Millennial Award, and they had an open space for someone else. So as we jump into this, let me ask you a question, Michael, because I see things that people normally don't see. And I want to ask you about the title, You on Your Best Day. And before I do that, I think I see things differently because I started going blind when I was 17. In fact, when I was 30, I lost vision for about 6 months. And I want to just ask how you see your name. Allosso. I showed this to you yesterday.
Yeah,
What jumps out? What jumps out at you on it?
My favorite one you picked there was bagnato fino all'osso, soaked to the skin, a complete immersion. And that's what You on Your Best Day is.
Wow. And I think of your first name and the power that comes with being named after Saint Michael, the archangel. And by the way, Michael is my middle name and my dad's name. I will tell you guys the first thing that jumps to mind when I think of Michael Allosso, one word, and it's love. I shared with Michael's wife, Peggy, the first time we met. I can remember when Michael walked in the room, and again, I noticed things that others don't notice. It felt to me like he was actually emitting love to every single person in that room. And Michael, I want you to know you are loved and how grateful I am that you're on this session with us. We're going to cover three things. Number one, I'm interviewing people that are best in class at what they do. So I'm going to have Michael share with you what he does that makes him so in demand as a CEO coach, so in demand as a speaker. I'm going to ask him, why are those things important? And I'm also going to ask him to share with you, how can you guys implement those things? Michael is like a mechanic who only works on high performance machines. I show this image in my Yescalate sales training because folks ask, how can you help us if you don't have any experience in selling our product or in what we do? Michael only works on folks that are high performance, and even a Ferrari needs wheel alignments. It needs oil changes, or it could end up in a ditch. So Michael, that's the imagery about you as a mechanic who works on high performance machines. Let me ask you, where did the title come from, Michael? You on Your Best Day. Tell us a little bit about the generation of that title.
Almost everything in my life that's wonderful, Dean, happened because somebody else saw me. Someone else saw excellence in me. I'm so moved every time you tell the story about your blindness and what you see. People want to be seen. And I've been blessed that people have seen me in my career. I had a client, I was a theatrical director, I was directing shows, and I started taking a few corporate clients to coach. And I had a VP at a major utility company in New England. He invited me to his executive group. This was a Vistage group. I had never heard of Vistage before. It was 2003. And I took notes from my client the whole time. They were about to process an issue. The chair dismissed me. And as he was dismissing me, he said, "Hey, I saw you took a lot of notes. Share your notes." And I said, "Well, my notes are confidential. They're from my client." He said, "Well, I don't care about your client. What about the rest of us?" And I read all my notes. That night, Dino, he called me and he said, "I want you to be a speaker." Dean, it hadn't even occurred to me to be a speaker. Wasn't in the cards for me. And he said, "I'm having you speak to my two groups in January of 2004. You're going to lead off the year." I never did a pro bono Vistage talk. And I said, "Wow, I better come up with something." And so this is the way I write. I need deadlines. Structure frees creativity. I'm never creative without structure. I need structure. So I made up You on Your Best Day in that moment. I created the 35 secret weapons. I did his two groups in January 2004, and the rest is history.
Amazing. 2,000 talks later. Michael, is there one that stands out for you among the 2,000 times you've made this presentation?
That's like asking me which of my 4 grandchildren do I love the best.
Well, you do have one you love the best, but that I'm not asking you to embarrass the other 3. But you could give us kind of an over without actually naming. Where was it? Where was the one that stands out?
There are 4 parents of the 4 grandchildren are all figuring out which one you mean. They think there really is one now. I'm in such trouble. There was one, Dino, in the spring of 18, where the group was doing significant events, and a man in the group, as he was doing a significant event, leaned over and told me that 7 weeks earlier, his 14-year-old son had committed suicide. That kind of popped right into my head when you asked me that. And I remember I just broke down. He started sobbing. But here's what I also remember. He recovered and delivered with panache and was the most energetic, vibrant, committed person in the room that entire day. And why I remember it, Dina, why I chose that one kind of popped into my head is because that was one of those weeks where I had 5 nights in a row of less than 4 or 5 hours sleep of all Adam. And I was kind of dragging myself in saying, poor me. And what that wonderful CEO taught me is, poor me? Really? The minute you think your problem is the biggest problem in the room, think again. I guarantee you one of our 139 listeners is dealing with a ton of hardship right now.
Absolutely.
And is yet sitting there attentively listening to you and me.
Yep. There's someone who needs to hear us today. I wake up every day before I go and deliver a talk. I think there's one person that I'm here for. I don't know who it is that day, but I know that you and I are here to make a difference. And I want to share just a brief story. So, by the way, Michael, what do you think was your busiest week in terms of the number of talks you gave? And I don't know that people really understand how hard it is to speak in front of people. Say, oh, I'd rather die than be a professional speaker. But to actually deliver 3 hours of really tight and good content is really physically challenging. What do you think was your busiest week? How many talks do you think you delivered that week?
I've got a couple of weeks where I did 5 double headers Monday through Friday, and then I did a keynote Saturday morning.
Yeah,
that's a pretty aggressive week.
Yeah, there were times where I had luggage in 4 or 5 different cities that I had forwarded ahead because I just wasn't going to go through baggage claim. So I have just a quick story, and it's a picture of one of my happy places on the planet. This is Carmel Highlands, just north of Big Sur, and I was out there for I had 3 gigs, perfect week. It had a Tuesday morning, a Wednesday morning, and a Thursday morning. I could chill on Monday, I could chill on Friday, and I brought my daughter with me. She had just graduated from high school, and I wanted to take her to a happy place. So we went out to the Big Sur area. And I can remember Devin was hiking with me one of the days, and it was just right about when I took this picture of her. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, she said, I feel like I'm in a movie. And I said, Birdie, you are. And the cool part about the movie is you're the writer, you're the director, you're the producer, and you're the actor. And I think that's so critical in terms of a concept you have. Now, you have a tagline, right? You have a tagline that everyone knows you for. So I'm going to let you say it right now so that people can be reminded.
It's showtime.
And in your book, you had a number of amazing quotes, and this one stood out because of 2 words. You want to share the quote with people and why you put it in the book?
You asked me earlier about the title, Dino. You on your best day. Notice it's 2 U words. The most important word that we could ever talk about is authenticity. The mistake some people make is they think performance means pretend. You see what Merrill says in this quote, pretending is imagined possibility. So the journey I like to take folks on is, I don't want any pretense. I do not believe in fake it to make it. I don't like that expression. It's counterintuitive to me. It makes no sense to me, frankly. Who likes fake? Do you know anyone who likes fake? Nobody likes fake.
And people can feel fake. People can feel fake, and they can feel authenticity when they experience it.
Yeah, they don't need your vision to feel fake. Every citizen in a second can feel fake. And so this quote that you popped there that Merrill said, it's what we want to do is take that thing that you can imagine, the very best thing that you can be, and make it real. Then don't make it pretend. Make it authentic. Why can't you impact every person you meet in a day? Why can't someone be better after they met you?
Absolutely. And you're going to share with folks the prayer that you say in the morning and at night. And when we get to the end here, and I want to save that. But share with the group the 2 questions you ask of audiences. And you ask them, we're not going to give people a lot of time to think through the answers now, but if you had a pen and a piece of paper, you might want to start writing some notes as Michael asks these two questions. So what's the lead in here, Michael? And I think you've asked this question of around 30,000 people. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Well, usually, Dino, someone introduces me and says, here's this actor, director, choreographer guy, Michael Allosso. Here he is. And I'm in this corporate setting. And folks say, what is this? Is this guy on crack that he's bringing a director or actor here to meet today? And so right away, I talents you associate with actors at the top of their game. And we make a list. But it's like all those pictures you see me with flip charts, I don't have any PowerPoint. I do flip charts. And there's the list. There's the list many groups make, and there's some additions, subtractions. Every group's different. I can never predict what a group's going to say. And
so there was a little bandwidth issue, but the question is, what would be the skills or talents you would associate with an actor at the top of his or her game?
Correct.
And you have people make a list. And then you ask, what are the skills or talents you would associate with a great leader at the top of his or her game?
Well, usually, Dino, what I say is, if I were to make a list of skills and talents you need to be an outstanding leader in your business and in your home, which of this list that Dino has up on the screen right now, everybody, which one of those things would you delete? Because you don't need them whatsoever. And
it's interesting. People might think that, adaptability and believability, they absolutely have to have confidence, connection with an audience, passion, but they may not understand how powerful body language is. So, I wanted you to kind of give, if we were just pick one of these and give people a sense of, some of the things you think about and some of the things you teach CEOs when they want to up their game. And when you teach actors and actresses, what are some of the things or 4 or 5 tips that you focus on in terms of body language?
In this new world that we're in now, Dino, eye contact becomes more important than ever. It's always important. Now, if you're dealing with Asia, the whole different set of rules. The rules we're going to talk about today are US, Canada, UK, Ireland. When we deal with Asia, we do special homework. But by and large, the eyes are the gateway to the soul. Leo Tolstoy, the great Russian playwright novelist, says the eyes are the windows to the soul. So when you look someone in the eye, you make a very specific human connection, and you never want to shortchange that. And in our new world where we're communicating so much virtually, that becomes exacerbated. These things don't become diminished. So what we're working on constantly, and one of my Vistage members right before this meeting, Brett, I'm talking about you, said, he wrote me a nice email and he said, hey, look into the camera. Because yesterday, that's what we worked on, is looking into the camera, because you want to heighten the connection with the person on the other end.
Well, so I know when people are in your audience, and I have similar experiences where they'll come up and say, I felt like you were speaking just to me. So Michael, what's some of the cues you're thinking about in your head to give people that experience?
Authenticity, not tricks, not scanning, not pretend, real. No, you really look at them, Dino. I don't care if I get 1,000 people in the room or there's 2, you really look at them. Yeah. And people say, well, that's impossible. Well, if you decide it's impossible, it is. Yeah. If you decide it's possible, that is too.
Well, one of the, when people say they're terrified of public speaking, I say, well, I have the secret. And they say, really? They said, but it'll never work. I said, well, no, it will work because you're doing it right now. And they say, what? I said, are you nervous talking to me? They say, of course not. I said, well, that's what public speaking is. Pick one person at a time and just talk to them. Talk about the hands, Michael. Talk about the hands and some
thoughts. You're modeling it. You're modeling it. So in theater, we call it your heart is your corazón. This is the power center. So in theater, we communicate from here. And so authority comes from here. And now in the new world, don't be afraid of getting your hands into the camera. That if you do the disembodied head, that might mean something different to your team. This is going to animate. This is going to be energetic. Then when we're away from the camera, then all the bad things you can do with your hands become more visible. In camera right now, you can't see all the other things that I'm doing. But what happens is the hands, with hands and lap, this you can see on camera. Right. You ever see someone sitting like this as you give your presentation? Now here's a problem. We call these micro messages. Micro messages can lie. The person who's sitting like this actually could be completely engaged with you and they're cold.
Right.
So here's a duplicity with your list. All these things, yeah, they mean something, but what you have to do as a leader, you have to amalgam, take every micro message you see, and then form a conclusion.
And you have to put a little asterisk. I know that you and I both have a pet peeve, and it's for our audience, not necessarily for us. When one audience member takes out their phone, it triggers everyone's brain to leave the session, and it sends the message that that person isn't in the session. But even there, I have to put a little asterisk, because I challenged an audience member once, and then he turned his phone around and he had been taking notes of what I was saying. But I didn't know he was taking notes when I first saw him with the phone. So as you're saying, we need to also make sure that we are observing and giving people an opportunity to, because they're revealing themselves one way or another. The arms folded might be paying attention, the phone, he might be taking notes. Talk about pacing, Michael, and not just pacing the room, but pacing your talk.
So pacing is a cool word because it has double entendre. So pacing is aimlessly wandering from point to point, movement wise. So people think, wow, that's a cool thing to do. You're supposed to move. No, I'd rather the speaker stay put, never move if you're going to move aimlessly. Why it's a double entendre? It also has to do with heterogeneity of voice. So musicians are often great speakers because musicians vary volume, speed, and pitch. And that's called dynamics. And in this new world that we're in, where we're communicating so much via telephone and screen, vocal heterogeneity becomes more important than ever.
Powerful.
Ever.
How about sitting versus standing when you're in front of an audience? Now, clearly, we could do a webcast with someone standing, but it's a whole different kind of a feel. What are your thoughts on sitting and standing, and some pointers that you'd share with people?
You really can't make any decisions about sitting and standing until you decide what your objective is. Is your objective to disseminate information in a powerful way? Well, you probably stand. Is your objective to converse with your audience so you develop a rapport and a connection with them? Well, you probably sit. Even where you sit. Do you sit at the center of the table? Do you sit at the head of the table? Do you sit in between the center and the head? All those are sending different messages.
And those are choices you make. And one of the quotes in the book was from Michael J. Fox, where he said, play the beat, play the note as it happens, right? So you're making these choices based on what you see in the room and based on what your goals are that day. I want to just focus, because I made a connection as I read through your manuscript about eye contact, but I also saw the letter I jump out, and there are 4 specific I's that jumped out at me. So Michael, give people an overview of why you thought these 4 words are so important for delivering the message that you want to deliver, so that you can be you on your best day.
Number 1, improvisation that you selected there, Dean. Remember what I said earlier? I stole it from Bill Ball's book, A Sense of Direction. Structure frees creativity. So when you are prepared, what that liberates you to do is to improvise. Folks, 139 of you that are listening out there, Dean and I had a rehearsal yesterday. The rehearsal was to give this a structure. The Dean says, we're going to begin here, we're going to end here. I might ask you this question, I might ask you that question. That's all I need. With that structure, I'm able to improvise. Because when you improvise,
it's amazing to me that as a sales trainer for years, reps, you would give them a script to start with, and they would say, what are you trying to control me? And yet I ran a call center in Hollywood for a short period of time, right on Sunset Boulevard. Michael, I employed out of work actors and actresses. They were amazing salespeople. And when I would give them a script, they didn't see it as limiting. They saw it as a place for them to launch off of.
And that's the beauty of professional actors. We can memorize and then make it our own. People who aren't professional actors can't do that as well. And so for those people, you still need structure. It's not a memorization thing. You need an outline. And once you memorize a script, you get rid of it. Immersion is what we were talking about earlier, why you and your best day is the name of the program. Yeah, I'm not interested in you being an excellent leader only when there isn't COVID-19. I'm not interested in you being an excellent dad or mom only on days when your kids are behaving well. I'm not interested in you only being a life partner when your life partner agrees with you. Immersion means you are the role all the time. Now, people often say, Dina, well, that's exhausting. How can you possibly do that? Yeah, you're right. It is exhausting. I never said this was easy. You chose to be a leader. Suck it up. Yeah, it's exhausting. So it's related to your earlier slide about the pacing, the beats. So Miles Davis, a great jazz musician, says it's not the notes that makes the music, it's the space between the notes. So as you completely immerse, you've got to find where the rests are.
Yep.
So today I did a presentation this morning to a great company in Massachusetts. I kept the door to the office closed. Peggy and Bridie were on the other side of the door somewhere because I had to come down from the performance. Because if I had walked out the door, I wouldn't have been ready to greet Peggy and Bridie because I'm still in the mode of that group. So I needed to create the rest.
Oh, and you created a space. You created a space for you to transition from one to the next. Talk to us about intention and interaction, Michael, and why those words are so important to you.
Intention is synonymous in theater talk with objective. Unless you know what you want, I can't answer a single question you asked me today, Dean. You always have to know your objective. And in theater, what we call objective intention, as I say, those are synonyms, is what you demand of the audience. What is your desired result? It's not an intellectual thing, it's a physical thing. What do you want them to do? And especially in this time of obstacle, you got to decide, what do you want the other person to do? And until you decide that, you can't choose behavior. And interaction, every great performance, folks, is a dialogue. Only professional actors do monologues well, folks. And most of them hate them, by the way. When I coach a professional actor on a monologue, the actor often will say, Michael, can you make up the lines the other character might say? Why? Because we all do better with dialogue. So if you have 1,000 people, it's a dialogue. You have 2 people, it's a dialogue.
I added a bonus eye. There were 4 eyes. I like that because of the whole glasses thing. It made a nice metaphor, but this one, immaculate preparation. What a powerful combination of words. Tell us what you meant by it when you wrote it.
Earlier, you alluded to those people say, oh, I'm nervous and I can't possibly eye contact everybody in the room. And so I always ask those clients, what's your objective? Well, aren't you trying to connect with the audience? Yeah, but if I look at them, I'm going to forget what I'm going to say. Well, your preparation is not immaculate. You must, it almost sounds like another Catholic holiday, immaculate preparation. It's on December 8th every year, the immaculate preparation. The preparation has to be so sterling so that this is full circle, your eyes, you know, it comes back to the first one, improvisation, because this liberates you to now be yourself. You can be your other.
Well, there's wiring that happens. When neurons connect, they fire. And when we do something over and over again, those neurons wire together. That's how people develop habits. That's how they memorize stuff. And, you know, I'm often asked about humor, and I thought there was a couple of things that I wanted you to share with the group around this quote from Ellen DeGeneres. And I specifically on the next slide, I'm going to have you share with people 2 kinds of humor and things we need to be aware of when we see them or feel them with audiences or with speakers. So what was it about this quote from Ellen that you thought was so powerful?
Humor, do you think, folks out there, do you think humor is important in the workplace? Well, guess what? I think it's essential. If I can't laugh in your joint, I don't want to show up, especially during COVID-19 time. So the problem with humor is that there are 2 kinds of humor that could be hurtful. And the first one's called badinage, and that's a fencing term. That means if you and I are fencing, I do this with my sword, you do it back. I do this, you do it back. That also is verbal badinage. Now, hey, how you doing, brother? You look bald. Yeah, well, you look fat. That's badinage. And that is like flicking towels in the locker room. You're the leader. The GM doesn't flick towels in the locker room.
Well, there's also something that's interesting. If you don't know people well, they're really not open to you flipping a towel at them. So this is, you know, we'll walk in, I'm sure you've had this experience. I'll walk into a Vistage group where they are applying this kind of humor nonstop to each other, but they don't know me at all. And it feels hurtful when they start applying it to me.
I don't even accept that premise to each other, because here's what I observed, there's always somebody who doesn't find it funny. And it's the same skill that bullies use. So the person
Absolutely.
doesn't find it funny who is not skilled at it. They smile, they nod, but they're not comfortable. It's a form of bullying,
Absolutely.
but it is. That's why I like the Ellen quote, the humor should lift. Make it at my own expense. Make it about light bulbs. Make it about yellow couches. Make it about palm trees behind Dino's head, not about Dino's intellect,
So,
what he's wearing, what he said. That's off limits.
so here's how this second word came through to me. Your teaching of one person in your audience. He then was able to share this with me years after you said it to him. He made a sarcastic comment, and I looked at the audience member and I said, what was your intention with that comment? And he said, we had a speaker here a few years ago and he taught me a lesson and I just made a mistake. I want to apologize. The speaker said that the root of the word sarcasm is the Greek sarkazine, meaning to tear flesh. And that was not my intention. I'm sorry. I said, who was this wise speaker? He said, well, that was Michael Allosso. Thoughts on sarcasm, Michael, and how you handle it when you experience it from an audience member?
You did a nice job. I like what you did by asking them always the big question is, what is your objective? Again, remember I said earlier, Dino, I take an amalgam of responses. So that I can't lie to you. The sarcasm doesn't really bother me. It's ha ha ha. But I'm a communications expert. Are your people? Are your family members? And any one thing you say goes in there and they receive it and they remember it. Think about your objective.
So I talk about we're constantly scanning the environment, the stimulus in our environments, and choosing our responses. Now, we as professionals can create cues for ourselves. So it's not random stimuli, and we can create routines around those things that they get wired into our brain. I'm sure people would be interested in what are some of the cues that you have set up for yourself. You talk about some in your book. You talk about what you do at the beginning and end of each day, and there were 5 tips in that section that, if you're open to it, we're at the 30-minute mark here, but I know that people would want to have a few more tips. There's a ton, Michael, that I know you present on, and I'll let people know how they can follow up with you if they want to see more. But walk us through your 5 tips for the beginning of each day.
My dad was a fireman, and the one thing he taught me was when the alarm clock goes off, you get up. So I never need a second alarm. I'm up, and that gets me in the zone. Peggy, my wife, the alarm clock is a suggestion. She is neither awake nor asleep. Either get up when it goes off or set it later. It just seems so simple to me. Secondly, I do something physical right away. I dance, I do crunches, I do jumping jacks. Now, I don't do that as much when I'm home because Bridie crawls all over me and kisses me. Bridie's not my wife. It's a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier. So with Bridie, I often put a collar and a leash on her right away and we go squirrel chasing. Prayer, I'm not proselytizing prayer. I need something bigger than myself to get going. Vocalize, I've damaged this before.
Now hold on, Michael, because
Yes,
I can't let you skip over with the first name Michael. I can't let you skip over what is the prayer you say, because I know that there's a specific prayer you say. Are you willing to share it with the audience?
Of course. My personal prayer is, please God, do not let me croak until I use all the gifts you've given me. Yeah, I do think I'm very gifted. What my frustration is that I might leave this earth before I use all those gifts, and I don't want to.
Well, let me just set you at ease in that you have already made such a huge difference for tens of thousands of people who have then been able to make a difference for others. Not that I want you to croak, but all right, tell us about vocalizing. I saw you doing it before we started. Tell me what you do to practice to open up your windpipes.
Luckily, I live in Boston, and we have the best surgeons and all those kinds of people here. And Julie Andrews actually lost her voice. And millennials, if you don't know who Julie Andrews is, don't write me, don't tell me, because I will jump out the window because I feel so old. Julie Andrews lost her voice. She couldn't sing. She came to Boston. This doctor got her voice back so she could sing. I said, I'm going to him. And he put a thing down my throat, took a big movie of my cords. They were huge, red, engorged. And I said, okay, tell me the truth. Do I have throat cancer? And he said, no, you talk too much. So he sent me to a speech and voice therapist who gave me a series of vocal warm-ups. To this day, I do every day. And number 5, call home. When I'm on the road, every day when I start the day, I call Peggy. And I try to have a nice conversation with her. No, I don't try, I do. And not one where I say, do this, do that. Not one where I complain about the hotel. One where I say, okay, today I'm here, I'm doing this. Where are you? I love you, I miss you.
Awesome. You know, Michael, the chapter you end your book with, and I got a picture of it right here. People should be better as a result of spending time with you. I call it the delta, the difference. And on the back cover of my first book, I said, success is not about making a commission. Success is about making a difference. And the last few slides, I just want you to see another Michael in my life. This is from my dad. My dad has a prayer also. I don't know whether it's a thing with Michael's, but here's the prayer my dad starts and ends the day with. And I asked him to send it to me this morning because I was going to share it with you. And he says, dear God, just for today, let me wear a big smile. Lord, just for today, let me walk an extra mile. Lord, just for today, let me not seek fortune or fame. Just for today, let me honor your holy name. Just for today, let me be someone's guiding light. Just for today, let me know wrong from right. So I wanted to share, there might be something, Michael, that comes from being a Michael, but I want you to know how much you matter to me and how I see you connect your values and your behaviors and everything you do. Folks, I hope you guys got value in having Michael walk you through the what, which is that it's showtime, how this applies to your home and business life, what Michael calls Act 1 and Act 2. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in his book, and I'll give you guys a way to contact Michael right here if you're interested in learning more about him, whether it's having him speak to your group or having him coach your teams or even yourself. So Michael, you're okay? Is this, did I type everything out here right on this slide in terms of?
Looks good, Dino.
YouTube, LinkedIn, custom webinars, keynotes, workshops, coaching, training. So there is a specific process Michael calls TSP, which he outlines in his book, which we didn't have a chance to go through here today, but I want you to know everything Michael does, and this is his phrase, reeks of excellence. Michael, here's me and one of my other favorite rock stars. I think of you as a rock star. This is Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes, and a few years ago I had a chance to meet him, and I brought a ticket that my sister Jody had bought me. Her and I saw the Black Crowes at a little bar called Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut in 1990. And Chris said, 1990? He said, are you trying to make me feel old? And I said, no, man, I'm trying to make you feel loved. And I want you to know how happy I am to be on the planet with you. And Michael, I want you to know how happy I am to be on the planet with you. And thank you for participating. Before I close up, Michael, any last words before I show who's going to be next on the series and give people a chance to contact you? Any final words before I show my favorite slide here?
Absolutely. It's Good Friday, Dino, so it would be remiss of me if I didn't quote Mother Teresa. Folks, especially during this COVID-19 time, this is what she says. Let no one ever come to you without leaving better behavior. Be the living expression of God's kindness. Kindness in your face, kindness in your eyes, kindness in your smile. Go forth, make a difference.
It's a superpower. Kindness is a superpower, and you have it. This is a statue that I've had for 20 years. The artist has become a friend of mine. Her name's Bobby Carlisle. Self-made man. I used to think, Michael, he was carving himself. Now I see it differently this last couple weeks. I see him as revealing himself. I think that's what we're seeing during this time. We're seeing people reveal themselves for who they are. So I want to ask you guys to take to heart some of the things Michael talked about creating you on your best day, because the times we're going through, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was what we made of it. So there's an interview with Bill Crawford, Dr. Bill Crawford, that I did last week. If you guys want to check it out, that video's up on YouTube. The video here of Michael will be up as soon as it processes and Michael and I have a chance to look through it. I got Rob Teschner going to speak to you guys in another week on the debriefing that the Air Force does. A number of folks coming on here. Michael, here's my email address. If any of you want to reach out to me with any questions, thoughts, concerns. Michael, I'm going to close up here with my album cover from the Sunrise from 2 weeks ago. And brother, we're never starting over. We're always starting different. And I'm going to end the recording now in 3, 2, and